I was just passing by my house when I heard my wife say something that froze me in place. She thought I was an idiot. She thought I would never find out. She thought she could betray me and walk away untouched. She was wrong. In just 72 hours, I took everything from her: her money, her home, her reputation. But that was only the beginning. Because when she hit rock bottom, I was waiting with one final blow, one she never saw coming. And trust me, she'll never forget it. Want to know how it all unfolded? You won't believe the ending. It was supposed to be an ordinary evening. I had left the office earlier than usual, my head spinning with numbers and negotiations. The merger I was handling had been draining, and all I wanted was an hour at the gym to clear my head. But as I drove past our house, something pulled me toward it. An instinct, a whisper at the back of my mind. I slowed the car. Her car was in the driveway. Odd. Celia had told me she'd be working late. Another one of those urgent meetings she always complained about. My fingers tightened on the wheel. I almost kept driving, brushing it off as paranoia. But then I saw it. The upstairs curtains moved, just a slight flicker. I killed the engine and stepped out of the car, my movements automatic, my breath unnaturally even. With careful steps, I reached the door, unlocking it with barely a sound. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Then I heard it. A voice. A man's voice. Low, rough, confident. "That was amazing," he murmured, followed by a short laugh. "I can't believe you're actually pulling this off." Every muscle in my body locked. Then came her voice, Celia, my wife. "Damien has no idea," she said, breathless, amused, dripping with the satisfaction of deceit. "He's so easy to fool." The words sank into me like knives. "He thinks I'm still at work. We have all the time in the world." Then, the unmistakable sound of a kiss. Something inside me snapped. My grip tightened around the banister, my knuckles turning white. My mind raced through every possible scenario, storming up the stairs, kicking the door in, ripping him out of my bed. But I didn't move. Instead, I inhaled sharply and stepped back, sinking into the shadows. Because in that moment, I knew. This wouldn't end in an argument. This wouldn't end in just a divorce. This would end in ruin. Her ruin. I turned and walked out of the house, my body eerily calm, my hands relaxed at my sides. The Damien Celia thought she knew, the predictable, forgiving husband, was dead the moment I heard those words leave her mouth. She had no idea that she had just signed away her future. I got into my car, gripping the steering wheel with such force my fingers ached. My vision was sharp, crystal clear, like ice. No rage. No heartbreak. Only purpose. She had underestimated me. She had no idea who I really was. But she was about to learn. And when she did, she would wish she had never been born. I didn't go home that night. Instead, I parked my car a few blocks away, leaning back in my seat, eyes locked on the empty street in front of me. My heart wasn't racing. My breathing wasn't heavy. It was as if my body had entered a new state, one devoid of emotion, ruled only by calculated intent. Celia thought I was a fool. She thought I was soft. She thought she could betray me, defile our home, and walk away untouched. She had no idea that I had already begun to destroy her. I pulled out my phone and made a single call. "Luca." A pause. Then his voice, deep, steady. "What's wrong?" Luca and I had been friends since college. He wasn't just an expert in cybersecurity. He was a ghost, a phantom in the digital world. If you wanted to disappear, you called Luca. If you wanted to bury someone alive, you called Luca. "I need everything on Celia," I said, my voice like steel. "Every text, every call, every single movement she's made in the last year." There was silence on the line. Then how bad? I exhaled through my nose. I caught her. In my house. In my bed. A low hiss of breath. "I'm on it." Within 48 hours, I had everything. Luca delivered more than I expected. Not only did he recover every deleted message, but he also pulled hotel records, bank statements, and even home security footage from the very cameras I had installed for Celia's safety. She hadn't just been unfaithful. She had been bragging about it. "Damien is such an idiot," she had texted her lover, Ryan. "He trusts me completely. I could get away with murder." Murder. Funny. I sat in my office, reviewing everything, a slow, humorless smile stretching across my lips. "You thought you were invincible, Celia. I was about to prove you wrong." Step 1. The psychological warfare. I went home the next day. Celia greeted me with a kiss on the cheek, her eyes warm, her smile bright. She was flawless in her deception. Too bad I was better. For the next week, I played my role perfectly. Loving husband. Attentive partner. Clueless fool. I kissed her good morning. I asked about her day. I brought her coffee in bed. And every time she looked at me, her guard lowered just a little more. She had no idea that while she was smiling at me over dinner, I was dismantling her life piece by piece. Step 2. The isolation. I started with her friends. Celia had always thrived on her social image, her curated perfection. It was easy to plant the seeds. A casual remark to one of her closest friends. Hey, do you think Celia's been acting off lately? Confusion. Concern. It was enough. Next, I targeted her workplace. I sent a carefully crafted email to her boss, a respected executive in the finance world. Attached were screenshots of her messages with Ryan, and just enough innuendo to make it seem like she had been misusing company time and resources. By the end of the week, whispers had begun. She could feel it. I saw it in the way her smile faltered, in the way she checked her phone more frequently, in the way her perfectly controlled world started slipping through her fingers. And then, I delivered the final blow. Step 3. The trap. I want to take you somewhere special, I told her one evening, running a gentle hand through her hair. Just the two of us. No work. No stress. Her eyes lit up. Really? Where? A villa outside the city. A private getaway. Excitement erased every doubt from her face. She had no idea. She packed her bags eagerly, completely unaware that the moment she left our house, she would never return. The morning of the trip, I kissed her softly, whispering, I'll meet you there. I just need to wrap up some things at work. She left first. Excited. Clueless. As soon as she was gone, I executed my final move. I froze every joint account, leaving her with nothing. I sent all the evidence, the texts, the videos, the hotel bills, to her family, friends, and employer. I transferred sole ownership of our house to my name. And then, I packed every single thing she owned into trash bags and had them dumped outside on the street. When Celia arrived at the villa, she found a beautifully set table, an expensive bottle of champagne, and a folder. Inside the folder, screenshots of her texts with Ryan, surveillance photos from our bedroom, a copy of our finalized divorce papers. A single note rested on top. I was just passing by and thought I'd drop in. But what I overheard changed everything. You had no idea what was coming. That was my final message to her. I didn't go to the villa. I didn't answer her frantic calls. Instead, I turned off my phone, sat in my new penthouse apartment, and poured myself a drink. Celia had spent months betraying me. In less than 72 hours, I had taken away everything she held dear. And the best part? Her suffering had only just begun. Celia's world collapsed in a matter of hours. She didn't realize it at first, not as she sipped on the champagne, flipping through the pages of her own betrayal, not as she saw the photos, the texts, the damning proof. But then her phone rang. Her mother. Celia, what have you done? Then another call. Her boss. We need to talk. Immediately. And then the final blow. Her credit card declined. She tried again. And again. Declined. 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 She wasn't just exposed. She was ruined. Frantically, she packed up and drove back home, expecting to fix things. But when she pulled into the driveway, she found her suitcases on the front lawn. A moving truck sat by the curb. And standing in front of the house, her parents, their faces twisted in disappointment. What's going on? She demanded, stepping out of the car, her voice frantic, shaking. Her mother's eyes were red-rimmed, swollen from crying. We saw everything, Celia, she whispered, voice barely holding together. Her father, normally a reserved man, looked at her like she was filth. You're no daughter of mine. Celia staggered back, as if struck. Dad, don't. His voice was ice. You had a good husband, a good life, and you threw it away for what? A cheap thrill. She turned to me then, desperate, wild-eyed. Damien, please. This isn't what you think. I folded my arms, leaning against my car. Oh, Celia. I exhaled, shaking my head. I don't think. I know. Her gaze darted to the house. You can't kick me out. This is my home, too. I smirked. Not anymore. She blinked. What? I shrugged. You weren't paying attention, Celia. While you were busy screwing Ryan, I transferred the house to my name. And while you were packing for our romantic trip, I was draining every account you had access to. Her breath hitched. Her fingers trembled as she pulled out her phone, checking her bank app. Her face went pale. No, no, you can't do this to me. Oh, but I already did. Then her boss's car pulled up. A tall, older man, face lined with disappointment. Celia inside. Now, her entire body locked up. What? Her boss stepped closer, lowering his voice. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is? Your private affairs are all over the internet. The board is furious. You're done. She whimpered. Please, don't. It's too late. His jaw clenched. Clean out your desk by tomorrow. And just like that, she lost everything. Her job, her money, her reputation. And then came Ryan, the coward. When she called him, crying, begging him to fix this, he didn't answer. He had blocked her. Classic. She collapsed onto the pavement, sobbing, shaking, broken. And me? I just watched. Because this wasn't just revenge. This was justice. And I wasn't done yet. Celia sat on the pavement, trembling, sobbing, completely shattered. Her mother refused to look at her. Her father had disowned her. Her boss had fired her. Ryan, her lover, had abandoned her. Everything she had taken for granted, her money, her home, her perfect little life, was gone. She looked up at me with desperate, swollen eyes. Damien, please, we can fix this. I crouched down in front of her, gripping her chin tight enough to bruise. Fix this, I whispered. I leaned in, my breath hot against her tear-streaked face. You didn't just betray me, Celia. You made me the villain. You mocked me, humiliated me. Now, I'm just playing the part you wrote for me. She shook her head violently. No, I didn't mean it. I was just what? I sneered. Having fun? Making a fool out of me. Her silence was all the answer I needed. I stood up, pulling my phone from my pocket. Do you want to see something fun? I hit play on the video Luca had recovered, the security footage from our bedroom. There she was, tangled in the sheets with Ryan, moaning my name mockingly as she laughed with her lover. Celia let out a wounded scream, slapping the phone out of my hand. Stop it, please. I smiled. You didn't mind being watched before. She gasped, looking over her shoulder. People were watching. The neighbors. Strangers walking by. Whispering. Glaring. Celia had always craved attention. Now she had it. I picked up my phone, dusting it off. This video? I sent it to every single person you know. Your friends. Your colleagues. Even your little yoga instructor. Her breath hitched. Oh my God. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. You didn't just cheat, Celia. You became a public disgrace. You're a joke. And now, you'll live with it. She was hyperventilating now, shaking like a leaf. Please stop. I crouched down, my lips curling into a smirk. Begging doesn't suit you, love. Her entire body collapsed in on itself. This was no longer Celia, the confident woman who thought she could control me. This was Celia, the broken, powerless woman who realized she had lost everything. And I wasn't done. I stood up, nodding to the moving truck. Your things? They'll be dumped at the cheapest storage unit in the worst part of town. You have 1 month before they auction them off. She let out a choked sob. I turned toward her parents. She's all yours. Her father scowled. We don't want her. Her mother sighed, looking at her with pity. Celia, honey, you need to find somewhere else to stay. That was the moment she realized. She was homeless. Her shoulders caved in. No, please, don't leave me like this. I stepped into my car, watching as she fell to her knees. I rolled down the window. You did this to yourself, Celia. Then, I drove away. She didn't call again. She didn't text. Because she knew this was the end. 2 weeks later, I was sitting in my new office, sipping whiskey, finally free. Then, as I scrolled through social media, I saw a photo. Celia, sitting alone in a filthy diner, her hair a mess, her face hollow, staring blankly at her coffee. The caption? Some mistakes you can never undo. I leaned back, letting out a slow, satisfied exhale. Damn right. Because revenge isn't just about getting even. It's about watching them rot. And Celia? She was already rotting. The end.